Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the on-track series video for the Japanese tier 10 tech tree heavy tank, the Type 5 Heavy. Now if you do enjoy the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the on-track series for the Type 5 Heavy. If you don't know what the on-track series is about, it's basically where we play through the Tier 5 all the way through to the Tier 10 and show you the tanks at their best, give you the setups, all that good stuff, and just show you what the whole line is about. And maybe you get to see some of those tanks that you don't really see played that often on YouTube, Twitch, or in general in the game, right? And it gives you that sort of information. So we're starting off at the Tier 5, as always. We're in the OI Experimental. Now this tank is a pretty damn nice little heavy tank. I say little, it's a rather large 100-ton tank, but it's a pretty decent tank, right? Because it's got 130mm of armour on the front all over, except for the lower plate, upper plate, but it's extremely well angled, so it's pretty damn good. Which is good against Tier 5s. It's got the same problem that you're going to encounter all the way along the line of these Japanese heavy tanks, and that is, as soon as people press A, your armour is worth jack diddly squat, which is a problem for the whole line. But this tank is definitely pretty damn great for me, to be honest, because the Derp gun, the 120mm Derp gun that you get on this tank is dirty. It's got 60 penetration on the HE round for 440 alpha. You've got 140 pen on the heat rounds for 360 damage. It's beautiful. With 140 pen, you pen most tanks you're going to face at tier 5 and 6, really, with that, which means you've got really hard-hitting alpha damage. Add to that you can just load the 440 HE damage rounds as well. It means you can splash for quite a lot, which is great. You do have a max ammo speed on the rounds, though, of 290, which does hold the Derp gun back a little bit. It is exceptionally slow shell velocity, but you really can make the most of it, and especially when you're top tier and against tier 6s, you can just dish out so much damage, which is lovely. You have 2.9 second aim time on this 120mm gun, which is not the best, but it's not that bad actually for a Derp gun. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, which is great, and that's great especially because you are a very, very tall tank naturally, as you are a big Japanese super heavy tank. You got 360 meters of view range as well, which means that it's not actually that bad for a tier 5 heavy. You can get it up to about 460 view range with the setup I've got, which is definitely quite nice for the tank. And then you've got a 1200 horsepower engine, which is a 12.36 horsepower per ton ratio. And that gets you up to 30 kilometers an hour, and you do actually tend to hit that 30 kilometers an hour, which is quite nice. Fun story, this tank used to be quicker. This tank actually used to have less armor than it has now. It used to be 75mm of armor all round, but it went at 40 kilometers an hour, which meant that you could just speed about the battlefield, and you had a great 10cm gun as well for 300 damage with great penetration, and you just used to absolutely butcher poor tanks. The only problem is you got butchered yourself, but if you could put yourselves in good positions just to use the 300 alpha gun, it was wonderful. But this Derp gun replaced it, and they buffed the armor on it and stuff just to change sort of the meta of the tank, really. I don't know, the playstyle of the tank a little bit, so it was a bit more in line with the rest of the tanks where they've got a bit of armor and thus it just bosses. But what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the tank? Well, I run the same crew all the way through the line, so once you've seen this crew, you know what I run along all of the tanks. And that is, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Trap Mechanic, and Rapid Aim. Rapid Aim to make sure this turret traverse is quick, because the turret traverse is very, very slow at 22 degrees a second, so I just make sure that it is going to be faster, because you just want to be able to get this gun on target if you can, especially if things are trying to get around you. All 3 gun perks, because naturally they're all Derp guns, so they are very, very inaccurate at 0.54 on this tank. And then all the other perks you're generally going to take in World War II. And then in terms of the equipment, you've just seen, we run the Rammer, the advanced reload, and the optics. Optics to be able to spot for ourselves, because you don't want to be blind in this game, and because you can get a pretty good view range for a tier 5, means that you will struggle to be outspotted that much, and also that you'll outspot quite a few tanks that you're going to face as well, because you've got pretty good view range, like I say. And then the advanced reload, so you can switch between the HE and the heat rounds, which are, like I say, beautiful on this tank, and it's nice to be able to have that flexibility to switch to what you need. And the advanced loader, because you want to make your DPM better. Well, you just want to make your reload better in general, because you do have a very slow reload, naturally having a Derp gun. And I run that same setup on the OI tier 6 as well. So, yeah, that's exactly what I run for, that tier 6 too. But yeah, you're seeing this first game in the OI Experimental. We've managed to get 2.8k damage with 3 kills, and we managed to just use the filthiness of this tank to just eviscerate everything that came after us. And naturally, this tank does have multi-weapon system as well, same as pretty much the whole line too, but it's not the most useful gun in the universe. Seeing as it only has 59 penetration on its premium round for 45 damage, it's not that helpful. Yeah, it just generally, you don't use it that often in the OI Experimental. One way to always do it in multi-weapon system tanks for World War II is basically switch to your multi-turret that you want, aim it at the floor, hold the turret lock button, which is RB for Xbox, and it will basically, when you switch out of that, it will keep the gun pointed at the floor, which will stop you having the confusing triple reticle problem that you're going to see for the OI in this game. That is my advice to you. If you get annoyed by the multiple reticles that are on your screen, just switch to the turrets, lock them looking at the floor, and then when you switch back to your main cannon, as long as you do not switch back to those turrets, they will be pointing at the floor, and you won't have the confusion of which one am I actually using right now, because it does get a little bit confusing at times. It's a pretty frustrating thing. But yeah, we're on to the tier 6, and the tier 6 is the behemoth, the OI. This tank is beautiful top tier. It really is. It's very, very nice top tier. When you are tier 8, it's absolutely tragic. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It can be tragic. Why? Because you have a lot of armor. So when you're facing tier 5s and 6s, and even some tier 7s, your armor holds up really, really well. But as soon as you're facing tier 7s firing premium, or tier 8s in general, your armor means jack diddly squat, and you get absolutely butchered. But when you get lobbies like this, oh boy, the memes flow. Oh, this 150mm derp gun that this tank gets is a wonderful, wonderful thing to behold, and you can just trash everything. You've already seen the equipment and the commander setup that I run for this tank, because it's exactly the same as the previous one, and then you've upgraded from a 120mm derp gun from the OI Experimental to this 15cm derp gun, which has a very, very long reload. It does. The reload is very, very long. And you have a 4-second base aim time, which is utterly atrocious. And it means you do spend a lot of time aiming. But when it hits, oh boy, it hits. You've got a 0.58 base accuracy as well, by the way, which is utterly atrocious too. But you've got 10 degrees of gun depression, again, which is quite nice for the tank to use. And you do have that multi-turret system, which is a little bit more useful on this tank because you do have 122 pen on the premium round for that multi-turret. So you can actually pen a lot more at tier 5 and tier 6 with those guns, which is kind of helpful for shutting down low health targets once you've derped them for most of their hit points. The tank does go at 29 kilometers an hour, which it does struggle up to because it still has that 1200 horsepower engine with an 8.54 horsepower per ton ratio, which, yeah, the tank is exceptionally slow. It is a very, very slow tank, but you do have 370 meters view range, which again is pretty decent for a tier 6 heavy. It means you can get the view range up to 473, which is pretty damn nice. It means you'll be able to spot for yourself as well, which is glorious for the OI. And you just basically got to keep yourself in a position where you can just keep this derp gun working. And yeah, I do run rapid aim on this tank as well because, yeah, you've got 18 degrees a second turret traverse, by the way, which is, again, exceptionally slow. That's my thing. There's multiple ways you could set up the crews for these Japanese heavy tanks, if I'm honest. But because the turrets are so slow, I just want to make sure that I get the gun on target a bit quicker because that's what annoys me. But you could run anything from armor angling, you know, to reduce the damage incoming, especially when things are going to be penning you like hot knife through butter when they're firing premium, or no, all that good stuff. There's many, many different ways you could say. You could run clutch braking as well if you feel like track traverse is too slow. It's completely down to you and how you want to play the tank. I just feel like the track traverse is too slow, so I make it better. But yeah, the OI is, honestly, it's a meme lord tank because you've got 150 penetration on these heat rounds, which is absolutely fabulous. Like I say, you will go through everything, but you also have the HE rounds, which do have a penetration of 75, which means there's, again, quite a lot of tier 5s that you could pen in the front. There's quite a few tier 6s you can pen in the side, and it means you can just shred people and have a good laugh with it. And in this game so far, we're up to 7 kills. We're looking for that Radley Walters. We've just been trying the multi-weapon system against the Boilermaker. This Boilermaker has the pen to go through us generally if he's firing premium. If he's firing AP, he has to hit our cheeks. But we've got the heat going in. And good night, Mr. Boilermaker. We secure our 8th kill of the game in this OI. We're up to 3.5k damage with 8 kills. 3.5k damage with 8 kills. It's going well. There's 2 tanks left, though. And I'm thinking at this point, 2 tanks left. Can we do it? Heat round beautifully straight into the KV2. We're on to 9 kills. Anyone smelling a Paul's medal? I'm smelling a Paul's medal right now. We see the Churchill 7. We've got the heat loader because we have 700 alpha on this heat round. We've got 910 on the HE, which means we splash for a good amount, but 700 alpha is going to kill this guy in one shot if he gives us a free shot. So we come around the corner for the Churchill 7. It's like, come on, Churchill 7, give me the shot, bro. He doesn't know I'm here. He drives out, gives us the shot. 10 kills, baby. OI does its job. And we finish the game with the victory. 10 kills, 4.3k damage, 2.6k base XP. The Ace Tanker, Devastator, Paul's Medal, High Caliber, Top Gun, Steel, Wall. And yeah, the 2.6k base XP, a really great game for the OI there. And as it can be a meme, it just has the one big problem. And the one big problem for it, except for the fact that they're slow, because it's one thing you're going to have to live with the Japanese super heavy line, is the fact that they're all very slow, right? Is the fact, and again, you've got to live with it, you are great when you're top tier, but when you're against same tier, well, mostly when you're against same tier or higher, and they start to fire premium rounds, or even they're 2 tiers higher and they just fire standard rounds, your armor is worthless, sadly, and it means that you go from being this, haha, I am big man, I bounce everything, to, no, don't hurt me, as everything, you know, shoots at you and just goes through your armor naturally, because that's what happens. But yeah, we're on to the tier 7. And the tier 7 right now is the Oni. And on the Oni, I do run a different equipment setup to the others, and that's because I don't really use the heat rounds that much on this tank, so I don't feel the need to use the ammo swapper. And that is I run the advanced loader, the optics, and vents, so that, well, just so I can get more out of this tank. So I can get the view range a little bit higher, so I can get the aim time a little bit lower, so I can get the DPM a little bit higher. I just want to make everything about the tank better. You could run, instead of the vents, you could run a GLD to make the aim time better on the tank. You could run advanced armor with the armor angling perk on the crew to reduce the damage coming in by 10%. You could run the traction system if you really wanted to and go at 27 kilometers an hour, but to be honest, you don't really ever hit your top speed of 25 that easily, so you may as well just stick with running other stuff. The reason I don't really run the powertrain or the traction system on these tanks is because you get no real benefit out of the powertrain, because you don't really get much top speed boost, and the engine power boost is nice, but generally it's not enough to even get you up to your top speeds anyway. And because you're so slow already, the traction system only gains you most of the time 2 kilometers an hour, and it's kind of like, yeah, well, I could just make other stuff about the tank better, right? And you'll have a better time with it, which is why I don't run the speed equipment on these tanks. But yeah, the Oni. The Oni has a gun, which is the same as the OI. It has a 23-second base reload this time, which is a little bit faster. You got 3.5 second aim time, which is better than the 4 seconds of the previous tank. 0.53, which is better than the 0.58 of the previous tank as well. You still got the 10 degrees of gun depression, but you got to watch the gun depression over the boobies on the front, because the boobies block your gun. So be careful of that, because you can get the 10 degrees of gun depression through the middle of the boobies, but not over them, and you'll lose gun depression that way. And you've got to sort of angle it weirdly over the left and right to be able to get the max out of the gun depression. You still have the 121 pen on the AP, 150 on the heat, and 75 on the HE. And like I say, the 150 pen on the heat at tier 7 starts to become a little bit more not that great. So that's why I don't really run the ammo swapper to make... Oh no, that poor Rudy. I'm sorry, that was... Oh no, that poor guy. Oh god. Derp giggles, it's fine. So yeah. Oh, Citadel, no. Oh, no. Derp giggles. Oh, no, it's just... Derp, is there anything... Derp is love, Derp is life. Am I right, chat, and YouTube, and everything in general? Am I right? Derp is love, Derp is life. Oh, boy. What was I even saying? I don't know. My goodness me. But yeah, that's it. The 150 pen heat rounds isn't the most useful at this tier. It still can be useful, but I just think, you know, I don't really use it that much, so I wanted to make everything else about the tank better. And yeah, you are a very slow tank. And as you can see, in this game in the Oni, we're up to 3.8k damage with 4 kills. We go for the shot to kill the ISM. The light tank comes in to ram us, gives us 279 hit points, and kills me. I know I only had 3 hit points, but I thought, I'm going to survive the ram from a light tank. No. And we finished the game with 4 kills, 4.1k damage, 274 assistance, the ace tank of the high caliber, with 2,051 base XP. A nice game there for the Oni, which again is just another tank that derps. You can have fun with it. You can have a right laugh with the derp gun as long as you don't really take it too seriously. But once you start to get into those games where you are bottom tier, oh boy, it's really a tragic tank as the Oni, sadly for it. All these tanks do have a secondary gun that you could take, right? Which is, for most of them, a 10cm cannon. And for, you know, for the Oni, it's probably a bit more reliable, the 10cm cannon, or I should say more consistent. Same as on the OI as well. And probably on the OHO too, actually, is probably a more consistent gun in the 10cm cannon in terms of doing damage. But for me, it's just not the fun way to play the tank. The derp gun means you don't have to stick around trying to aim for a weak spot to penetrate someone. You can just derp them for like 300 and then not stick around in front of their guns for too long, and therefore, you know, you're reducing the amount of time it's going to take someone to just decide, okay, I'm just going to load premium and go straight through your armor, which is why I run the derp guns. And to be honest, that is the meme of the Japanese heavies, is these derp guns, which is why we run the 15cm cannons. And yes, you're onto the tier 8, and on the tier 8 ho, I run the equipment of the gun stabilizer with advanced loader and optics. Now, this is the first tank in the line where you finally get the gun stabilizer. And oh boy, do you feel the difference on this derp gun. You really do feel the difference. The gun goes from fairly derpy and unwieldy to derpy, but at least it actually feels like you're not taking too long to get aimed in, and you can just keep slapping out these HE rounds and having a good time. Add to that, the reload on this derp gun is really not too bad when you are using it on the OHO. It's only about 12.5, 13 seconds, something like that, which is really, really nice for this tank. And it's the same derp gun that you've been using since tier 6. So once again, you've got 150 heat pen, you've got the... what did I say? The 75 HE pen for 910 damage. And once again, 150 pen at tier 8 is really not that great for the heat rounds. Again, you can pen some sides and stuff like that, which means, I mean, if you wanted to, you could run the advanced reload to be able to switch to the heat rounds if you need to. But to be honest, I just use the HE rounds. Just keep slinging the HE rounds. I've got heat in case I definitely need to pen something and I know I can pen it, but... yeah, I just sling the HE rounds all the time because you can have just an absolutely good laugh with those heat rounds. And I mean, on the OHO now, this gun is packing a 3.3 second aim time, which again is slightly better than the Oni at 3.5. You've got 0.51 accuracy now on this gun, which again is getting better. It's getting better. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, which you do not get over the left-hand side of the tank, over the boobies on the left. If you are angling this tank and you want to shoot things, you're best to angle it so that they are over your right-hand side, and thus you can angle and get the 10 degrees of gun depression over the right-hand side of your tank. Therefore, that's how you'll get the gun to go down. That gun depression is awkward on this OHO. It's something you've got to be very, very careful of. You've got the turret traverse is 20 degrees a second again, which is why I say I run the rapid aim, just to make the turret traverse a little bit better, because I just want to help it. You've got 380 meters view range, which is glorious for this tank, which means you can spot for yourself, which is, again, pretty good for a tier 8 heavy. You've got a 25 km/h top speed, which is a pretty consistent feature for these tanks, with a 10.4 horsepower ton ratio, because you've got the same 1200 horsepower engine, which means you do hit 25 kilometers an hour, but you do feel very, very slow, and you are generally very, very slow. It's just one of those things you're going to have to live with. But you do have a base reload of 17 seconds on this derp gun, which is why I say that the reload is actually really good on the derp gun, and that's glorious. In terms of the ammo speed, you do have 500 meters a second shell velocity as well, which is something I forgot to mention in general for this gun across the other 3 tanks, or the other 2 tanks, I should say, which is not the worst for a derp gun. and means you can... It means that the shells don't loop quite as badly, which is definitely very nice for it. The armor on the Oho is actually pretty good as well. Even in a tier 9 game, I mean, it can be shredded, but because you've got so many different angles on this tank, the angles are a very good thing for this tank. It's not flat. It's not like the ONI. It's not like the OI. It's not like the OI Experimental, where they all have really flat points that are very, very easy to pen. The Oho doesn't have that much. It has very well angled armor, which means that even facing tier 9 and 10 standard rounds, I mean, the premium rounds butcher you anyway, but that's the sad fact of all Japanese heavy tanks. Even against tier 9 and 10 standard rounds, they can ricochet quite easily off of the weird angles that this tank has. Oh, 938 beautiful scenes. So yeah, the armor is pretty effective on this tank. Again, naturally, it just means that when you're facing against tier 9 and 10 premium rounds, and even some of the tier 8 premium rounds, they do tend to shred your armor. But there is actually quite a few tier 8 premium rounds that won't shred your armor, which is definitely quite nice. So this game in the Oho that you're seeing, we're up to 4.7k damage with 1,583 assistance, and we're on 5 kills. And I've seen this going, Radley Walters? There's a Radley Walters in here. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get the kill on the Iron Rain, which we were trying to get, because we were trying to use the multi-weapon system to get it, which again is the same as the ONI. And has 122 penetration on the premium round on the multi-weapon system, which again can be useful against the lightly armoured targets, but yeah, not the most useful. As you've just seen there, we managed to pick up the kill on the Udes with the multi-weapon system. Can be useful for those sorts of targets, but generally is not the most useful gun in the universe. And we finished that game in the Oho with 7 kills, 5.1k damage, 1,800 assistance, the Ace Tanker, Steel Wall, Top Gun, the High Caliber, with the Devastator medal as well, 2.4k base XP. Really nice game there for the Oho. The tier 8 tank in the line, and we're on to the tier 9. And the tier 9 and 10 use the same equipment as the Oho for me. And yes, the Type 4 Heavy. Oh boy. Yeah, oh boy, that's what I'll say. The Type 4 Heavy is one that I do not enjoy. I just don't like this tank, because it is basically the same as the Type 5 Heavy, which is the tier 10, naturally. But obviously, it's worse in a few ways because it's a tier lower. But the armor, it's just a big hit point pinata. Yeah, it's a sad time for the Type 4 Heavy, because you have 250mm of armor on your upper plate and your lower plate, which means that a lot, especially if they roll higher on their pen rolls, a lot of the tier 9s that you face and a lot of the tier 10s that you face will pen you with their standard rounds if they hit the flat parts. Naturally, you can angle, which makes it better, but sadly, the the hull cheeks that you will be able to see on the side of this tank are only 200mm thick. So if you angle the tank to be able to make it so that they will struggle to pen your lower plate or upper plate, your hull cheeks become really difficult, really easy, to pen. Whereas your, oh no, 1230. Thanks, Waffle. Yeah, your hull cheeks, will become very easy to pen, whereas your hull becomes harder, which is an absolute pain, because you're like, aha, now it's more difficult to pen the front of my tank. Oh, they're going straight through the hull cheeks. And sadly, the ammo racks are directly behind that weak spot too, which means that if you get penned there, your ammo racks are going, which means that quite a lot of the time as well, your ammo rack will get detonated in the Type 4 Heavy, which is just an absolute pain. Add to that, this Derp gun is, well, it's a really nice gun that you get on the Type 5 Heavy and the Type 4 Heavy. You do have 85 penetration on the HE round for 1,300 damage, which is what you've already seen us use against the Waffly 100 there, and we're slapped in for 1293, which is lovely. And you have 330 heat pen, which again is very useful against a lot of different tanks. I don't really use the heat rounds that often. Why? Because the 1300 HE round generally splashes for about 500 or 600 anyway, and I don't have to sit there waiting on a superiorly derpy gun to be able to hit a weak spot, to be able to penetrate your tank. I can just derp the HE, pull back. That's why I use mainly the HE rounds. I don't really use the heat rounds, because I found the heat rounds are a little bit inconsistent at times, and I can just keep slamming out the HE rounds, not really wait for a chance to get the shot in, and thus it'll do better for me. That's just my way of thinking about it. But the Type 4 armor can work. If you are facing tanks that are firing purely standard, it can work. But yeah, generally most people see a Type 4 heavy, and they see a Type 4 heavy, and because you look so similar to a Type 5 heavy, I'm pretty sure a lot of people get them confused, and thus just go, premium rounds, and your armor means jack diddly squat, completely nothing at all to premium rounds from tier 9s and 10s, and sadly you get just utterly trashed by premium rounds, which is just sad for the Type 4 heavy, and it's one of the reasons I just don't enjoy it, because it is big, it is very slow. It's a 25 km an hour top speed, but it's very sluggish to even hit that. You generally go about 20 km an hour, and yeah, you just trundle about. And the gun derps a lot as well, which is definitely very painful. You just got to keep derping and get past it. Get to the Type 5 Heavy, because the Type 5 Heavy is a damn nice tank to play. It's a take your brain out kind of tank, and you can have a laugh. But yeah, this gun on the Type 4 Heavy has a 3.1 second aim time, which is not that bad really for this kind of gun. It's got 0.48 base accuracy, which again, you can get down to a decent level. 10 degrees of gun depression, which is great. But you got 24.5 second base reload, which is definitely slow. You got 390 view range though, which helps you spot for yourself, which is good. And you can definitely have a decent time in the Type 4, but it's just not that enjoyable. I just didn't enjoy it, to be honest, myself. And you do have the same multi-weapon system gun as you had on the other two tanks as well. And as you can see, this first game, this game of the Type 4 Heavy, we've managed to get 4.4k damage. We've blocked 6k, but we are going a bit of tracking assistance as well, but we did finally get shut down, and we finished with the victory. 4.4k damage, the 1400 assistance, 6k blocks, the ace tanker with 1750 base XP. A nice game there for the Type 4 Heavy. I say it can work, you can have a meme because this gun is filthy. I would say for the Type 4 Heavy, probably the 14cm is a little bit more consistent, but that Derp gun is just something. It's one of those things, with 1300 damage, it is just something else, really. And when you do get the chance to pen those 85 pen HE rounds, oh boy, is it filthy. It's just that you are that big hit point pinata, and because you've only got 250mm of armor on the front of the Type 4, it's like 50-50, most of their standard rounds will go through your front, and then you angle up because you go, oh, I need to angle to make my armor better, and then the hull cheeks become garbo, and they just pen the hull cheeks anyway, and you sit there going, oh, okay. But then you move up to the Type 5 Heavy, and you get to the Type 5 Heavy, and once again, you've got the hull armor, which has gotten better, which is definitely great for you, because you now have 270mm of armor on the lower plate and on the mid plate, which is definitely great, because that means you'll bounce pretty much most of the standard rounds you're going to face, especially if they're tier 8 and tier 9, but once again, you suffer the problem that if people load 300 plus pen APCR or heat rounds, your armor becomes complete trash, which is a little bit sad for the Type 5 Heavy. But again, you've got the type of angles that can just bounce shots, so that can be decent for you in the Type 5 Heavy. It's just that, yeah, premium rounds just completely trash your poor tank, and it's just a little bit annoying at times. But you do have this fabulous gun that, honestly, for the Type 5 Heavy, because you have the ability to bounce standard rounds, it's just dirty. This gun can be so dirty on the Type 5 Heavy. We run the same crew, and we run the same equipment as the Type 4 and the OHO. Run the same crew that I talked about in the OI Experimental. And yes, the Type 5 Heavy gun, like I say, you've got 850 meters a second shell velocity on this HE round, same as on the Type 4. 750 meters a second on the heat round, which is slower than the HE round, so bear that in mind. The 85 pen on the HE round for 1300 damage. 330 heat pen for 750 damage. Your aim time is 2.9 seconds, which again is pretty damn nice for this kind of gun. It's pretty much aimed in most of the time as well. It doesn't really bloom out that much when you're on the move. You got 0.45 base accuracy, which again, actually for this kind of gun isn't that bad. And it does hit a lot of the time. This gun actually feels way better on this tank than it does on the tier 9 as well. Just how it performs, it just feels way better. You have 10 degrees of gun depression once again, which is glorious. You've got 400 meters of view range, which means you can get yourself up to a very good, respectable view range to be able to spot for yourself. You've got a 25km/h top speed with a 10.11 horsepower per ton ratio because you've got a 1500 horsepower engine, which means you do hit that 25 kilometers an hour top speed pretty easily in the Type 5 Heavy. It is a little bit sluggish and slow, but it is a super heavy. That is the way it is. And this tank is far better than Type 4, and it is actually an absolute meme to play. This Derp gun is a meme. The armor can be a bit memey, and you can... It's just to take your brain out and have a laugh kind of tank. It's not one that you have to really think about playing that much, if I'm honest. The only thing that you've got to keep in mind for the Type 5 Heavy is positioning, because you've got to keep yourself in a place where you'll be able to actually keep the damage flowing. You can't just sort of sit further back, because if the game starts to go a little bit too quickly for you, well, yeah, it's game over, right? You're not going to be able to do too much. But if you keep yourself at the forefront of the action and keep yourself pushing forward, you can keep this magnificent Derp gun singing, and thus your damage will keep flowing. And maps like this, Siegfried Line, where it's a bit more towny, is definitely a great thing for the Type 5 Heavy because, yeah, all the action's sort of confined in streets where you can just pop round, go bang, and oh no. Oh, we didn't pen it. 683. Yeah, it really does hurt when it hits the right spot. But yeah, the Type 5 Heavy is, yeah, it's really great. And this, it does have a pin-up skin, which is what you're seeing here. It does cost about 3,000 gold. But naturally, if you wait for camo sales and stuff like that, it will cost you a lot less. It'll only cost you like 300 more than if you had to just put standard camo on it in general. And it just makes the tank look pretty cool. So this first game in the Type 5 Heavy, because I do have two games for you. We're up to 4.4k blocked, 5k damage with 651 assistance, and we have the single kill. It's currently 7-8. We are losing, but we just need to start getting this gun going. Start picking off the enemy tanks if we can, because there's quite a few that aren't that healthy. So we're trying to swing the gun round to shut down the tortoise, which we do. And we're up to that 5.4k damage mark. And once again, I would fully recommend with this tank switching to that multi-turret system gun and swinging it down to the floor so that you don't have the multiple reticle problem that are on your screen. It's the one thing that I really do hope that Wargaming change at some point is getting rid of the double reticle, because it is deeply confusing sometimes. You're like, which gun is aimed right now? I assume it's the smaller caliber one because it's a little bit quicker at aiming, but you just don't know, and it's really confusing. And I can see people who are probably going to play this tank for the first time or play any of the tanks with these multi-weapon systems for the first time and sit there going, what's going on, right? But yeah, the advice is always switch to that multiple weapon system cannon, aim it at the floor, hold RB as you switch over to the main cannon, and it will keep it pointed at the floor so that you don't have to deal with the multiple reticle thing. And it just lessens the frustration a little bit. But yeah, we managed to get a shot into the Badger there to shut him down. We're up to 4 kills now with 6.1k damage. And we're chasing after this Scorpion. I was really hoping that... you've just seen me do it, by the way. Oh, artillery. You've just seen me switch to that multi-gun, point it at the floor, hold RB, and look, now it is just pointed at the floor. I don't have to combat the multiple reticles. I just have to worry about the main cannon one. It's a very handy thing to do, and I cannot stress enough how, if you are getting irritated with the multiple reticles, because it's just one thing I really hope that they do change. Point it at the floor, hold RB. But yeah, we were hoping to get a shot at that Scorpion a minute ago, because I was thinking, oh, that's a one-shot incoming, but sadly, he looked at us and went, absolutely not, I don't want that, and ran away. And sadly, we didn't get the kill on that guy either. But we're up to 4 kills with that 6.1k damage, and we're just chasing what is left. And it is a Centurion that is the medium tank there on the left, and artillery. We know artillery is probably camping somewhere towards their cap. In fact, he just gets spotted, and we could potentially one-shot that guy if the HE pens. So we're just aiming up towards him, waiting for him to poke out. It flies true, 980 odd damage on that Su-14-2. Securing our 5th kill of the game. Can we get our top gun? We see that the Centurion is actually coming around this way. I'm thinking, oh, he might give me a shot here, which would be great. We're just about to reload, and sadly, he gives the Conway the slightest of nudges, and he killed himself on the Conway. We finished the game with 5 kills, 7k damage, the 651 assistance, 6.8k blocks, the ace tanker, the steel wall, the high caliber, 1962 base XP. A really nice game there for the Type 5 Heavy on Siegfried Line. And we're on to the second game, the last game of the video, and we are on this map, which is Pearl River. And on Pearl River, I was thinking, right, where do I want to go? Well, It's team destruction, right? I could go to the middle and get stuck into that fight in the mid. I could go to B8, B9. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to go up along the 1-2 line, because the 1-2 line is one of those where it just seems to be that you find quite a few of the enemy tanks go that way. Or sometimes they never do. It's weird. It's just one of those weird ones. It's one of those quirks of gameplay sometimes when you're playing with your teams, where sometimes the teams do just charge this way and you're like, I can fight and get stuck into a massive fight over here, but then sometimes you do drive over this way, your team doesn't bother going that way, and neither does theirs. And that's something that we might have to contend with here in the Type 5 Heavy on this map. So what I want to do is try and cross this gap and get to the position that you see the two guys at the minute at G1. And we're just going to aim across the gap. We're going to aim across this gap because if anything gets lit up, naturally we can slam the HE round. The Centauro that shot us earlier is still down there. So we thought, oh, you know what? Let's pop a blind shot, see if we can hit that Centauro. But sadly, the shot didn't go... Well, it went exactly where we were aiming it, but the Centauro wasn't there, so we don't get any damage. And because we're a big Type 5 Heavy, I decided, yeah, we're just going to start charging. There's no point just sitting there. Let's keep going. The Centauro does get spotted, though, so we sling the HE round at him. Hit him for 484. I don't really know why I switched the multi-weapon system gun, because, yeah, that 75mm or whatever it is that's on the front of this tank is not going to do much to a Centauro, because, again, it's the same gun that you had on, I think it's on the Oni all the way up, because you have 122 penetration on it for 70 damage, which, again... for lightly armoured tanks, can be quite useful. So if you're shooting at, like, Leopards and stuff like that, and MX-30s/30Bs, you know, you can pen them with that. But for most tanks, you're not going to be very, very useful at all. As you can see, this flank, there doesn't seem to be much here. Something gets spotted in the bush. Oh, no, Waffle Panzer 4. Oh, no. Waffle Panzer 4, that gun could be good, though. As you can see, we can start lacing in the shells. We get shot by the Centauro, who gets shut down by the Standard B, so we don't have to worry about it. And we got that 1300 shell into that Waffle Panzer 4. So, again, that's where the multi-weapon system can be useful for the tank, because... obviously, we do have to reload for a long time with the Derp gun, so it meant that we could just keep starting the damage. You know, the damage could just keep ticking up against those low health tanks while we wait for the main cannon to reload. It can be useful, but it's just it's a limited amount of times it is useful. So the heavy tank gone in and shot the Rhinoceronte. Clearly, it ran out of its clip because it is a machine, and we come round to help the machine to shut down the Rhinoceronte. And the team is losing quite heavily because most of their team... one of those things, I never really go to C8, C9, B8, B9, because it never seems to be that their team or your team ever really go that way. But this game is one of those weird ones where no one went the 1-2 line and their whole team went down that BC 8-9. And it means we've only really found 2 tanks, but we managed to do 2.7k damage, and we're heading towards their spawn area, so that we can try and get rid of the artillery, because their artillery might be there. And in fact, one of the artilleries gets spotted. It's the Gui. The Gui is spotted. Can we get the shot in? The machine shoots him. We go for the shot into the back of the Gui. 1242 damage. Again, when you pen those HE rounds, oh boy, is it beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So there's a heavy tank spotted at E8, and I think... I can't make that cross. It's a Lehman Russ. So we're just going to aim the HE round up, slam it towards his tracks. We only do 239. But naturally, the thing that's quite lucky for this is because the Lehman Russ is an absolute troll to pen. It's a very, very troll tank to pen. But we don't have to worry about that because we can just sling HE. He gets unspotted though, and we know that he is up there. I don't want to poke out because I fear that there's probably something else up there too with him. And I don't want to take the hit, because there's still an E3 out there and a 268V5. Speaking of the 268V5, he is there. We get blind fired. That must have been the Lehman Russ. The Lehman Russ tried to blind fire us there, and luckily we didn't get hit. We're going to use the multi-weapon system here to destroy the destructible cover to see if we can get any shells at the T92, which we do, and we shut down that tier 10 artillery, getting our 4th kill of the game, 5k damage. Yeah, I didn't want to just go straight across the open there, because... I did fear that might be a tank destroyer or two looking at us, and obviously an E3 and a 268 version 5 can just laugh at my armour. so I didn't want to do it. We're going to blind fire the position where the 268V5 was, and we do hit it for about 600 there, 500, 600, something like that, because again, I thought, oh, maybe he's going to poke out around that corner. He did, and we managed to get some HP off of him, but we do have to be very, very careful because the E3 was also spotted down there. The Lehman Russ has come off of the hill. The heavy tank there, the Type 4 heavy, gets spotted. I think, can I get a shot at this guy? I can. And we shut down the Type 4 heavy for our 5th kill of this game. And I'm starting to think, okay, I really kind of need to get rid of the Lehman Russ. I need to go close him out. I've got to be very, very careful of the 2 tank destroyers over there. But I can't just sit here the whole time, because I'm never going to spot the tank destroyers. But they are also not going to spot me if I stay in this position. So I just got to be very, very careful. So we popped a shot towards where the 268 version 5 was a minute ago, again. And we didn't get spotted. But we also didn't hit him, which made me think, okay, the 268 version 5's moved. We managed to ricochet the E3, which is what I assume it is. And we're going to go to try and get into this dip. I was hoping to get unspotted so that I could get up here. We do get unspotted, and it's like glorious. I can get into this position between the 2 houses and try and cut off this Lehman Russ. We do have to get rid of him, but we do get spotted, which means I know I'm going to take a hit from behind. We take a hit from the E3, but we're just still going to close the distance on the Lehman Russ to try and get rid of this guy, because I feel like I'm probably the one that's going to be able to have to try and take it out, because if he's firing standard, he's not going to pen me, but if he's firing premium, he could. But again, I have angles, and he doesn't have the highest of penetration on his premium rounds, so thus he still might struggle to get the shells in. The TD is spotted in the 268 version 5 in the middle. The E3 that we know of was at E8, so we are E70, E8, so we are safe from him. We just got to keep getting shots into this Lehman Russ. He sadly got a shot into me, and I decided, okay, this light tank is behind me. Maybe the light tank will go and spot the E3. So if the light tank does that, I can actually get a shot into that E3. We know kind of where he was from where he shot us, so we see where the tree is down there, and I'm thinking, do I pop a blind shot? I'm thinking about the blind shot, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll hit it, maybe I won't. I'm just waiting to see if it gets spotted, though, because he doesn't. The light tank ends up spotting the 268V5 in the middle, and then we get spotted, so I go, okay, pop the shot very, very quickly, and then run forwards. And that's because a Marat is looking at us. The Marat fires heat, and we're lucky that the Marat decided not to put a second shot in there, because the Marat could have quite easily killed us there with his heat rounds, because, well, you know, heat is going to butcher our poor armour. We're just looking for a cheeky shot here into the Lehman Russ, but we can't quite find it through that gap. He ends up moving into a position where I can't quite find it myself. I should have probably waited there, because if he pulls back, we would have got a shot in there, but hey-ho, it is what it is. But that shot from the Marat has made it very, very awkward, because that means that now the Lehman Russ can kill me in one shot. We're a one-shot for all tanks in this game, which is exceptionally awkward, especially for a tank like the Type 5 Heavy, which relies on people firing standard. And naturally, the Lehman Russ isn't firing standard. He's firing premium, as he should against the Type 5 Heavy, and thus he's going to destroy our armour. The 268V5 will do the same, but he hesitated, which means we get a shot into the 268V5's tracks, tracked him in place and stopped him coming up. But now he's hesitating again. He knows I've fired, but he's decided that he can't come up and get a shot at me, and thus he's giving me the impetus here to go after him. The only reason I'm alive here is because this 268 version 5 has hesitated, and thus we shut him down for our top gun. That 268 version 5 should have killed us there, because he could have quite easily popped over and then just popped a AP round or a heat round straight through our front. Because, like I said, both the E3 and the 268V5 were never going to struggle to pen us. The Lehman Russ is actually waiting for us around that corner, and sadly we couldn't find the shot. And I'm thinking, do I go after this guy? I start to go after him, but I think, oh, actually, is that a good idea? I don't think that is, because he could quite easily take a shot. I can't kill him in one shot, and he will just aim his shot straight through the front of my tank, and thus I will die. But maybe I can bait him out by doing that. Maybe he thinks I'm coming, he can bait it out. We get the shot into his side for 295. Managed to get back behind cover before he's ready. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, the E3 is coming. I can't sit here for too long. If that E3 comes through the front, we're going to be a bit awkward. But if it comes around the back as well, which is where I'm expecting to come round, it's going to make it, again, awkward to get the Lehman Russ. So my spidey senses are tingling. I'm thinking, that E3 is probably going to be around the back right now. So let's just poke out around the backside, see if we can find him and get rid of him, knock it down to a 1v1. There he is, fortunately enough, just in time, and we get the shot to shut down the E3. Now I've killed the E3, I'm fully expecting the Lehman Russ, with the way he's been playing, to come after us. So I'm just waiting for my reload, and yeah, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm thinking, I should go round. I should go round, but my laziness is going to do us in, because I think, okay, I should go round, but no, you know what, I'm going to try and bait a shot from this Lehman Russ. Sadly, it goes straight through. You can't really take risks like that when you've got no hit points in the top 5 heavy, because it's a case of they will or they won't pen if they're firing premium. But we came second on the MVP screen in a defeat. 7 kills, 8.1k damage. The Pascucci's, the Devastator, the High Caliber, the Ace Tanker, the Top Gun. 1246 base XP on a loss for that 8.2k damage. A really great game for the top 5 heavy. It's a shame we screwed it up at the end. But yeah, that's the top 5 heavy line. It's a pretty decent line to grind. You just got to bear in mind that they are very slow and they are very susceptible to premium rounds. Just don't take them seriously, have a laugh, derp away, and you can have some right memes with these derp guns. And the Type 5 Heavy is a damn solid tank, though, at tier 10 to play. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success.